Hey everybody, today's review is on the Garfield movie. So the plot of this movie it starts off with Garfield's origin story where he's an abandoned little kitten and he finds this Italian restaurant that John's eating at and since he's starving, he's John lets him in and he eats up a storm, of course, because we all know Garfield and afterwards John later adopts him and Garfield, as usual, he just sits around, eats, he's lazy, and that's pretty much it, everything. But then he's a sudden turn of events happens where he's taken by another cat who happens to be his father, Vic, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and he's and Vic is on the run from this other cat named Jinx who's plotting a revenge against her after he abandoned her one day. He one day a afterwards Jinx tells Vic to get her some milk for a heist, and with the help of Garfield and Odie, they all go around the world. Well, not the world, but they go everywhere and try to get the milk and hopefully escape Jinx's evil wrath, and hopefully Garfield and Odie will return home. I did really enjoy this movie. As a Garfield fan, I was satisfied enough. I guess, okay, I guess maybe you all don't know if I'm a Garfield fan or not, but I should probably say my history with Garfield. Weirdly enough, this probably isn't a good place to start, but my introduction to Garfield was seriously the live action movie with Bill Murray. And weirdly enough, I liked that movie as a kid because like it was my introduction to Garfield, and like of course I just viewed it as a basic talking animal movie. But as I got older, now as an adult watching it, it's one of those weird movies to me where as a Garfield movie, it's bad. Like it's a really poor depiction of the character. But as a basic kids film, it's okay. Like if Garfield was a character specifically made for that movie and it wasn't based on anything, I probably would have called the movie okay. So when I heard a new animated film was announced, I was just hoping it would at least be better, and I can assure you it is. It's not a movie that's just an okay kids film but a bad Garfield movie. This is a good kids film and a pretty good Garfield movie, and lots of it still does resemble the character in a way that the live action movie really does. Now, so okay, I'm gonna stop comparing this to the live action movie because this is a totally different thing. Um, but but yeah, Garfield's a character that like even though he's everybody loves him, he's so lovable and it's hard not to just find him so entertaining. Garfield's kind of a weird character to make a movie out of. Like I understand why he had some shows like Garfield and Friends on the Garfield show cuz those are only like 11 22-minute episodes. So they're short. An hour and a half movie about a lazy cat who hates Mondays and eats a lot, that's not doesn't seem like something that you can easily do in a movie, but they really try to do something different while still making it feel like the character, because the whole plot is basically Garfield is just forced to go on a big adventure and he's caught in a heist, and Garfield being forced to go on an adventure in the outdoors is definitely an interesting idea, and it does definitely make for some good jokes. They don't really focus on that aspect too much of, like, not every joke is just Garfield's lazy and Garfield's fat. Like, you know how even in the trailer, like, he says, so, like, I never jumped, or he says the toughest thing is that he's been in an Olive Garden without breadsticks. Like, yeah, like, stuff like that, that was in the trailer. That's only, like, some of the jokes, because like if the entire humor was just about how Garfield doesn't know what to do when he's outside and he has to put effort into him, so they keep it to a low. Most of the humor comes a lot from the visual comedy, because there is a lot of slapstick humor, and this was directed by the director of The Emperor's New Groove, so I think definitely the slapstick and cartoony comedy definitely does really help with this kind of movie. It definitely, because I mean Garfield, yeah, the comic strips and a lot of the cartoons, like, yeah, I know they're kind of more laid back and not really like flashy, but they still do have a lot of good visual comedy. Like it's kind of that's kind of what made the comic strips and the cartoons funny, is just how Garfield, it was things kind of start out incredibly slow, but then if something like wacky and cartoony happens, it's just like so jarring because you're like, oh, it's funny because that's kind of it doesn't really match the tone of the rest. Although that does kind of hurt this movie a little bit because I feel like lots of the whole movie revolves around visual humor and cartoony slapstick, and like sometimes it can be funny, but it doesn't really help because I think it would have been better if the movie kind of just started off more slow. But I mean, I guess maybe they just wanted a more consistent tone, I guess. But so it's fine, I guess. The voice acting, it's definitely better than I was expecting. Chris Pratt is not a bad Garfield, really. I mean, okay, when I say I think with the material he's given, he is good, but his voice really doesn't match Garfield. Like, it just sounds like Chris Pratt. Like, he doesn't try to put on a voice or anything. He doesn't try to have a monotone or sound lazy. He literally just sounds like a cat with Chris Pratt's voice. But I mean, he does try. So, I mean, I guess maybe Chris Pratt didn't really have a lot of effort in him to make him sound really lazy or sound like Garfield. So I mean, I guess he did fine with what he was given, and he at least did seem like he was having fun with his performances. That's one thing that Chris Pratt has been consistently good at with animated movies. He does sound like you can tell he's really having fun with his roles. Samuel Jackson pretty much he doesn't really play. I know he always plays himself in every movie, but here he's not the hot-headed, wisecracking sidekick that he is in every other movie. Here, like, yeah, he is a jokester, but he's kind of more mild mannered, and he does kind of have a tough time keeping up with his son, and that's really the whole dynamic of the movie is that Garfield and Vic are trying to bond together after not seeing each other for so long. And you could argue that's probably not what you'd want in a Garfield movie because we don't really see much of the other characters. Like, we don't see, like, John is in the movie, but he's barely in it. Like, John pretty much only comes up once in a while saying that his cat and his dog are missing, but I guess to be fair, that's probably not the most interesting aspect of the movie, so I get why they didn't focus on it that much. But and there's a bunch of other characters they come across on their journey. There are these, there are these two dogs. There's this one kind of Shar-Pei one with a really like strong deep British accent, like he talks like this, and he does get a good laugh every now and then. There's also this other scrawny one who's kind of the opposite. He's like more the hyper chipper one, and they both get some good laughs here and there. And Hannah Waddingham as Jinx, she was basically what you want from a Garfield villain. Like, she's very over the top and very animated, no pun intended, and she really gives lots of the conflict of the movie some very lively stuff to look at. Like, she's very expressive, and you get a lot of good visual jokes with her because like she's basically kind of like in cartoons and a lot of animated movies. Like, the villains are always funny, and they're kind of the comic relief in some aspects. Ving Rhames plays this bull named Otto, who they go to when they try to get the milk at the farm. They run into this other bull, and he wasn't in the movie that much, but I think they kind of just wanted him to be a plot device. And like, I mean, Ving Rhames was fine, but was a fine choice for a character as like huge as a bull. And surprisingly, even though this movie is about a character who loves food a lot, and Ving Rhames is in it, there's no Arby's joke. I mean, to be fair, he is playing a bull, so I guess I understand why they didn't choose a beef restaurant to make a joke out of. But and it's very fun. It's very much like it tries to capture the aspect of Garfield while still giving a big enough adventure for a movie. Because Garfield, I'm not saying he's a bland character, far from it, but I'm just saying like he's never really given enough material and lots of character development, and he's not very complex. And even the whole Garfield universe, if he really has one, isn't really that big. So making a whole movie about Garfield would seem difficult, but this movie does try. And even though there's not a lot of the Garfield characters we all know and love, like some of like Arlene's not in it, and well, I can't give too many spoilers in case you care about spoilers for the Garfield movie. But you know, if you just look at it as like a new adventure for Garfield, it's a fun film. Like obviously, it's not gonna be like the comic strips or lots of the cartoons because it's an hour and a half movie, so they want a more big adventure and bring something new to Garfield while still feeling like the character. And it's it's a fun film. If you're a Garfield fan, I think it's worth checking out. If or heck, even if you have kids who don't even really know who Garfield is, which I don't even know how anybody wouldn't know who Garfield is. If they just want to see a funny talking animal movie, this is a good one to check out. Actually, I think it's very fun. It improves on the live action movie, definitely. I know I said I wouldn't bring it up, but just saying, like, if you're a Garfield fan and are skeptical, I think this does good enough for Garfield fans, while also being cute for newcomers and some kids. And it's a fun family film. Like, I mean, this wasn't as good as Inside Out 2, but I still thought it was a really fun film. Okay, in the trailers I got before the movie, there was Robot Dreams, which was, I think that was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, if I'm correct. But it looks interesting. I don't know. It kind of just looks like a coming of age slice of life style film. It doesn't look particularly exciting, but I mean, it looks quirky and amusing. I mean, maybe I'll see it in theaters because it's a 2D animated movie, and I would love to see a 2D animated movie released in theaters. But I don't know. We'll see. I probably might keep this one in mind. And the other ones I are ones I've already gotten. I've lots of them I already got before Inside Out too. I got Moana 2 again. I'm still curious. I mean, I'm sure it'll be another fun adventure, just like the first Moana movie. So I think it has potential for a sequel. Despicable Me 4, because of course this was going to be a big one in terms of animated release this year. Yeah, this still looks like what you'd want from a Despicable Me movie. It's very fun, and even though, yeah, one thing I think the Despicable Me movies kind of lack on is that they don't focus on like the super villain and action stuff. Lots of them are just more about family, which I get that's the theme of these movies, but I feel they kind of lack all the fun animated, you know, spy action that they try to be, and most of them are just about family members. Like, how much are you gonna bet that this movie is gonna focus more on the baby than the actual villain? Like, really think about it. But it looks fun, and also the whole Mega Minions thing that looks funny. So I'm sure this will be a fun one. And I got Harold and the Purple Crayon. I really don't know how to feel about this movie. Like I said, this movie's either going to be surprisingly charming or it's going to outright suck. Because, yeah, I feel like there's no in between. I don't think there's going to be any other option. This movie's either going to be good or it's going to outright. I mean, you could say that about anything, I know, but I really can't tell if this movie looks good or not. But yeah, I wasn't expecting Lana Well Crocodile to be that good, and I ended up finding it fine. So maybe this could be another case, but I don't know. So yeah, the Garfield movie. If you're a Garfield fan, or if you just want to see a new animated release, I think this is a good one to check out. It really deserves better than what it's doing now because it's a shame lots of movies now that are out now aren't doing well. But this is a good one to check out. So goodbye.